Welcome to TESO Consulting Group's DEI podcast series, Why Is It So Hard? Shining Through the Shadow of Resistance. I'm Dr. Tonya Breland.
And I am Erika.
Welcome back. I am Dr. Tonya Breland.
And I'm Erika. And this is our podcast series, Why Is It So Hard? Shining Through the Shadows of Resistance. And as many of you know, in this series, we discuss issues that prevent us from being socially just and free. And the goal is to disrupt the status quo of racial inequality and inequity in systems. Each episode challenges us to be the change that we want to see. We started a series called Justice for All. And today we're actually going to talk about student voice. As you can see, we have a special guest here. This is Doug Newman. He's a principal of Collingswood High School. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the work that he's done in implementing student voice. So Doug, tell us a little bit about what you've done, because you've done a lot of work in this area. So just, can you talk to us a little bit about what you've done and why is it so important?
Sure. There's the importance of student voice. There's the reasons why people, find ways to exercise student voice. It's all important. When it all comes down to it, right, being a principal of a high school, it's important to listen to what people are saying, not just the teachers, but kids. My whole thing has always been, we are, as educators, we get into education because we have this thing in our heads and our hearts where we want to work with kids. We want to, bring to life, the idea of, the content that we're trying to teach, but we want to bring that to life. We want it to connect with students and things like that. So we get in and we thinking that, we're creative and, we're smart. We know what we're doing. And we do. It's not that we don't. I think the piece that sometimes can get a little dry is, or there's an understanding that, once you get started, it's probably fresh. Your content and your presentation is fresh when you get started. Mm-hmm. Give it a couple of years, right? Give it a couple of years. And then the question becomes, am I doing the same thing I did when I first started? Mm-hmm. And if the answer to that is yes, that's because you're not listening to what the students are actually saying.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Right? When it all comes down to it, you have to understand, or we have to remember as educators, sometimes we actually have to we have to get out of our own way, and understand why we got into education, and it was to always connect with kids. Mm-hmm. It was always connect and always bring to life what it is that we're attempting to do. Mm-hmm. But you can't bring it to life if you're not talking to the students and asking them what it is that they're thinking, what it is that they want. That's how you bring it to life. Mm-hmm. I like to go by this understanding of every 5 to 10 years, education has changed. It's evolved, and a lot of us, when we first get in, again, we think, the way we thought when we first got in, which is, I really like to do, at least you hope people are still thinking
right.
I really like this, but I still think even our teachers that are up into 20 years and things like that, in their heart, they're like, I really think that, I'm fresh with what I'm doing. The problem is, if you just think about it, when you first got in, the way you started and the way we are, where we are now, it's not fresh.
That's true.
If your presentation remains the same, it's not fresh. And that's just the way it is. So you need to talk to your students. And I do that. We have, my superintendent actually does a lot, I think, as far as, I like his approach to surveying students. So he'll survey a large group of students, and then he writes down information. And then he'll come back and he'll talk to us, at least he's talked to me, about what it is that he's gotten from students. I like that idea, so I do that. I do speak to our kids on a regular basis, about, what they're thinking, ideas, where they want to go, their approach or their thought structure on, what should happen in the building, whether it be activities or what's going on in the bathrooms, stuff like that. Yeah. You gotta listen, listen because it's important to them. And if it's important to them, then somewhere along the line, we have to take a look at what we're doing. And if what we're doing is effective, great. If what we're doing is not effective, then we have to start making, some adjustments and programs or something to help address what it is that students, are talking about and what they're thinking.
Yeah. When I was a principal, I remember the students would come to me and tell me what was going on, like much like what you were describing. But they would tell me if they felt there was an injustice happening in the classroom or with the teacher or with another staff member in the building.
Right.
And I could have taken the approach that that's not happening, you don't know what you're talking about or whatever. They would never do that.
Right.
But then I knew that if I did that, obviously they would not feel empowered to advocate for themselves. Right. Talk about examples of opportunities that students have come to advocate for real change, and if you have examples of like real positive change that has actually happened as a result of the students feeling that they were empowered to advocate, I would love to hear some of that.
Well, in Collingswood, they actually, I was in elementary education for the last 3 years. I was in high school for a while, and then I got into elementary as a principal, and now I'm back. But during that time I was in the elementary school, Collingswood went through a transition, and the students raised their voice very loudly, about some of the changes that they wanted to see, in the district and things like that. Now, the way it happened, I think the end result, whether people agree with how it happened or not, the end result was students spoke up about things that they were concerned about. So that is a huge example of what just recently took place in my district. I think in the end, what I'd like to do is to continue the understanding that the students have to be heard. And not only do they have to be heard, but you have to make adjustments on your approach based on what you're hearing. Otherwise, you're tone deaf and you haven't learned your lesson to begin with. Right? So students have a big place in what goes on in the building, and there has to be that back and forth. I mean, I say, yeah, do it this way, and then they'll do it. But then when they say, hey, think about it this way, we also have to take a look at, okay, how can we make that happen?
Right.
There has to be that back and forth for it to be, one, harmony in the building, but two, address the issues that to be important, that that they think is important as well. Again, I think we have to get out of our own way as educators and give the kids the opportunity to make the statement, whether it be verbally or through surveys or what have you, or even their own actions. Their own actions, if you're really paying attention, will tell you what's important. Right now I'm trying to get kids out of the hallway and get to class on time. Some of the actions are like, yeah, we hear you, but we don't really hear you. You know what I mean? So in a way, and I'm looking at the the behavior, I'm looking at the activity, and I'm like, okay, we can. The majority are getting it. We have a few that aren't getting it. Now, what is that? Is that the way I'm communicating? Is it like what's not connecting, that type of thing? So I think that's just that's a part of it. But we have if you're using all your resources available, you'll be able to collectively get an idea of what kids are thinking and saying, and you can make adjustments.
You talked about surveys and just talking to kids. So like, do you have specific programs or clubs, or what are the types of mechanisms that you use to encourage and to get student voice, to get the students' perspectives on what's happening?
Right. Currently, it's small groups. That I use to help.
And it's like extracurriculars, or
it's small groups from the students that I bring into my office, and I'm talking to them. To students come into my office, Mr. Newman, can I talk to you? So a lot of it is just verbal right now. You can use surveys. In the past, we've used surveys, as a way to elicit more information. But, for the most part, for me, because it feels like I'm constantly on the go and I'm constantly moving around the building and things like that, what tends to happen is students will, say, can I see you? Can I talk to you? And it could be one, it could be five, and the idea is to, one, give them that opportunity to state what needs to be stated, right? And then try and find a way to take a look at what's going on in the building, whatever it is that I'm doing, whatever strategies that I'm using, but to think about what it is that they're saying and make some adjustments and try to, support them that way. It's important. It's work. Without a doubt, it's work. It's not, you brush off a kid, they speak, they talk about that. You
They
know,
sure do.
you listen to a kid, they speak about that.
They sure
You
do.
know, and so those are the things. Like there are always ripples to what you do. You can think that a kid wasn't really paying attention to you, like they communicated something to you one way or the other. They communicated something to you, and you can think that they're not going to pick up on the idea that, but they know that, you know, if you're listening or if you're not listening.
Sure.
And it's just a better culture that you set in the building when kids believe that when I say something, someone's listening, you know. And it shouldn't just be me. That's the other thing. And so when I'm communicating with staff, I'm saying the exact same thing. Like, you know, we should collectively, you know, listen to what our kids are saying.
Sure.
Right.
And make those adjustments, especially when you know that these are areas that are of high concern for students.
Yeah. You know, after George Floyd's murder, a lot of students felt empowered to go out and, you know, march and let their voices be heard in society. How does the work that you do and the opportunities that you provide for students to voice themselves, how do you see that working outside of school or beyond school? Since you have high schoolers, like, you know, when you think post-secondarily, what do you think, you know, this is going to lead to for them as young adults?
Sure. It's practice, you know, when you allow them to have a say, when you get out of the way and you listen to what kids are saying, you know, the kid walks away feeling I spoke up, I either helped myself or I helped my classmates, right? So there's that confidence that's key. And a lot of times, you know, students can be deflated based on what it is that we say as adults if we're not careful. So we're always, and I know in education, we're very careful about what we say and how we communicate that, you know, to kids. That's important. But what we do is just as important, right?
Yeah.
So students that come in and voice their opinion and then see change as a result, they know that, okay, I just said something that just helped me and a group of people. You know, that feels good.
Sure.
I'm going to do this again, you know, and you want that. You want to make, you know, we teach them what goes on in the classroom, which is great, you know, but that's not the extent of their education. You know, they're you know, when they can practice or put into practice, you know, the ideas and, you know, they can practice those or exercise those young leadership skills. You're giving them the opportunity to be able to feel successful, go out there in the world, and then try it again.
Right.
You know, and
Right.
it's not just, you know, the reading, the writing, and the math that's important. It's the other things that, you know, that we expose the students to, or the other opportunities that we create for them to be able to go out and do things. I love when students go out and come back and talk about what they did out there,
Yeah.
right? Because it's like, yo, this really works.
Right.
Yeah,
You know, what we do in the building really works. And I think that's pretty cool to hear kids come back and tell us about the things that they're involved in, and they have no fear, and you know, that's nice. It's nice. They don't have to have fear right now because they're young and they don't know when they walk out into the world what's going to hit them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But they have practice exercising their voice. They have practice seeing the results of exercising their voice.
Yeah.
They get to see the ripples with other students because they exercise their voice. Those are the things that are just, it's incredible. But you know, when you create those leadership opportunities, they go. One of the things that we have something called the leadership, a senior leadership program. You know, and in our senior leadership program, that's exactly what we're doing. We're putting kids in the position to practice, you know, true leadership by dealing with other students, younger students, and you know, creating lessons, creating you know the engagement that we want. Younger students, we want younger students to see older students do the right thing, right? Because you know that transaction that happens when that older student leaves, we now have something that they left behind, which is a younger student who has that imprint in their head of what a positive, you know, Collingswood student looks like, an older student looks like.
Right.
They have that imprint. Well, that's because our kids, you know, also in our leadership program, we listen to what our students are saying. Like, how do you think we should do this, and how do you think we should do that? And they get an awesome opportunity to be able to talk about the things they want to do with the younger students. They get to put that in place, they get to implement that, and then they get to see the results of that. But then, you know, like you said, when they move on, they have that experience, and they take that experience with them on to the next level, or, you know,
Which is good.
it's just awesome to see them be able to practice those young leadership skills right now, through using their voice and engagement.
Yeah. So when you first started talking, you talked about sort of like when we first became teachers and our teacher practice and how it should evolve, right? And so when we think about, in order to implement or encourage student voice, the adults in the building have to be sort of open to it, or at least they have to understand how to make that happen. Right. So how do you engage your staff? How do you provide, the professional learning needed or the opportunities needed for them to learn how to make that happen for kids?
Sure. Well, right now, it's October, so we're still getting into a lot of different things. But I think it's preparation. The preparation that I plan on is through PD. Through actually not just through PD, but through the conversations that I have with them one-on-one, through staff meetings, things like that, using those as opportunities to talk about what it is that they see, what it is that I see, and what we know to be important as far as how we're connecting with kids. But I think, having those conversations specifically about, what it is that they're, seeing and hearing, and how it is that I see it, is important. It's important to be able to have that back and forth and that engagement. If this is what I'm doing, and I give them examples of what it is that I'm doing, it gives other folks in the building I can do that too. Sure. And you want to be able to say, but they see me engaging on a regular basis. They see me out in the hallways. I am crazy with the PA announcements. I make a lot of great PA announcements. I think I should record it. But anyway,
we have to hear one of them.
but I say things to just to exercise the idea of let's think outside the box. The reason why I do it is because I want folks to understand that we can get out of our own way, think outside the box, implement some things that we think are going to connect with kids, because this is what the kids want. The kids had said they wanted a leader that was out there and out front, out in the front. Well, that's definitely my lane, and so I jump out there, I get out front, but I make these comments over the PA. I speak to students, I'm speaking to the staff, but everybody hears it. Everybody hears, what's going on. And you can see the culture, the culture of our building just, moving in the right direction, moving in a more engaging direction. But yeah, I think that in the end, the staff are definitely, they see and they learn, and then when they talk, I'm listening, because, although I think I'm always right, I'm not always right. And I gotta listen to what they have to say too, because in the end, that's how we make this whole thing work and move forward. So,
I mean, what I hear as you're talking, I hear a couple things. I hear you modeling for your staff, how to, one, create these relationships with students and empower students to be able to speak. And then you're modeling for them how to respond to the students, which I think is wonderful. But I imagine there might be some staff members, and none, of course, in Collingswood, but maybe in somebody else's school. So I imagine if you were to encounter, or if another leader, educational leader, spoke to you about, how do you deal with those staff members who are resistant to hearing from the students because they believe that they know what's best, that they're always right, and that they're kids and they don't know anything. So how would you advise another leader? Because I'm sure you don't have that issue in your building.
No, never. No, really, I think, in the end, kind of like when I'm dealing with students, when I'm talking to students about different things, we know that when we address students about behavior or approach, right? We know that the majority of the students are going to do what we ask them to do. And we know that there's always a few, right? Well, the majority of staff are on board with, let's go get this done. Let's do this. We understand exactly what you're saying. I didn't have to say much because they were already revved and primed and ready to go, right? This is the direction we're going. If there's a few, which I honestly, since I've been on board, I don't know who that would be. You know, and I'm glad to be able to say that,
That is
because
good.
all of my staff have,
See, I
have
told
just
you it wasn't
been,
in that building.
but the truth is, I mean, every district would obviously have, you know, staff that are just set in their ways, and it's hard for them to change. And I get that. If and when that happens, my thing is going to be communication, and I'm going to rely on their professionalism to understand where we're going. You know, for me, you know, professionalism matters, and you get into this job, and even when you get to the point where, let's say you're a little tired and it's coming to the end of and you're a little tired, I get that, but still I bank on the fact that, you know, educators are professionals. They're going to do their job. They're going to hear what it is. They're going to ask a question. What's the direction? What do you want to do? Okay, I'm going to get it done. I'm going to get it done, but, you know, I see it this way.
Yeah,
I'm like,
right,
you can
right,
see it that way.
right.
You know, we don't have to,
Right.
you know, be in I don't want to say total alignment, but as long as you understand the direction I'm going, you know, give that person the flexibility and the leeway to get to that point.
Right.
You know, that's what's important. As long as I see them going in that direction, I would be fine. But ever since I've been on board, and this let's go attitude, this positive
Yeah,
attitude,
that's
let's
great.
push, I don't have that concern, you know, as of now. But this is my first year, you know, so at some point, you know, the let's go, you know, people can get like,
Here we go again.
come on, man.
Right.
Like, where are we going? Like, where are we going? You want to go? Let's go. Where are we going? So
Right,
I think, you know, my approach to my presentation is going to have to change. And I'm okay with that too, because again, I think it challenges me to think outside the box. Me thinking outside the box is to address your question, you know, how do I get staff involved? Well, I have to change up my approach depending on
Sure.
what the message is and what it is that we're working on.
Yeah.
Do you have any like measures of progress that you're using, like in terms of like the way that you engage students and their, you know, their voice? Do you have or have you thought about like the metrics that you will use to determine the extent to which it's successful? Like, how will you know
Right.
that the work that you're doing around student voice is successful?
Well, I think, you know, there are certain key pieces, like key measures that you could use, which is going to be like things like attendance. You know, did your attendance improve based on some of the measures that you put in place? You know, listening to what students are saying, a lot of it has to do with one, culture, which is hard to quantify, right? But you know that your culture is going in a certain direction.
Sure.
That's a feel. But again, you know, I'm going to look at latenesses. I'm going to look at latenesses of class. I'm going to look at, you know, do students want to be in the building? You know, so attendance. Can I direct the culture of the building and the events and the different things, the tournaments that we want to do? Can I connect that to something? Well, if kids are in the building more because they don't want to miss out on what's going on, yeah, I could use that piece. You know what I mean? To say, well, they want to be here. Right? Give them something to shoot for, give them something to be excited about. They probably want to be in the building. So make it an area where they enjoy, you know. You know, so my, not SGO, but my PDPs and my administrative goals are connected actually to, you know, some of the things some of the structures that we're putting in place. And I get a chance to actually see, okay, well, again, based on attendance, based on some of the behaviors that I want to see reduced, you know, is what it is that we're putting in place working, you know, and is what I'm putting in place from the recommendations of students of the things that they think are important, you know, can I connect it back to, you know, the behaviors and attendance that I'm trying to reduce and things like that. And I believe, well, the answer to that is yes.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of what it is that they want, you know, I want as well. You know, and how can I tie it all together? Well, you know, those are just some of the ways that I could, you know, help put it together. Did that answer your question?
It did.
Okay.
It did.
Okay.
Yes.
When I think about educational leaders who are out there who are looking to, you know, create the kind of culture and climate that you seem like you are cultivating in your building, what would you say are like top 3 like words of advice for, say, a leader who is like, I'd like to do something
Right.
like this? Like, what would be like top 3 things that you would advise them?
Well, I kind of already
do.
said a part of it, which is to get out of your own way. You know, you have something in you that, you know, I think for a lot of educators, a lot of leaders, I want to do this, but I'm scared to do it. I guess that's the only word I can use. Like you're scared to move in that direction because I don't know, somebody might slap your hands. So get out of your own way and be creative. And then the second piece would be, don't apologize for doing the right thing. You know, like right now in my mind, I believe I'm doing the right thing. Someone wants to slap my hands. One, I'm not going to apologize for it, you know, because I believe we're moving in the right direction, and I know that kids are responding and teachers are responding, so I'm going in that direction. And I think, you know, in the end, I'm patient. I want to see how this works out as well. So even though I start something, sometimes, you know, it's going to take a minute, you know, and so I want to build that into the staff as well. Like, you know, we know that there are certain things that we want to see change, you know, as far as the building is concerned. But we also know it's a work in progress.
Sure.
You know, so that's the patience that I'm talking about. So
marathon.
yeah. So you know, those creative juices mean something, you know, and you can use it in leadership, you know, and you have to understand that. Again, you got into this because you thought you were very creative and you're going to be able to connect with kids. Like, don't forget that. Like, there is that's in us. We are creative. But don't just, how do I put this? You know, sometimes we only go as far as your creativity allows you to go, right? So don't be afraid to push it even further, you know, because why? You want to go further. I think that's huge. A lot of what it is that I'm doing, I'm like, you know what? This is good. This is solid. I think the staff will enjoy it. The kids will enjoy it, and it's bringing, you know, life to what it is that we're doing. I'm doing it. You know. Now, someone may say, "Well, why are you doing it this way?" I'm not apologizing, but this is what we're doing because I think that it's going to connect. You know, and the kids are going to benefit from it. You know, and now let's just wait and see what happens. You know, and I think that those are the three things that I think you know are huge and can be helpful.
Yeah. So first of all, it sounds like, because I know you just got there. Well, you were there before, and then you left.
I've been in the district for a while.
Yeah.
Assistant principal for a while, but it wasn't my show to run.
Yeah.
Right. So you can only make suggestions, and then, you know, it is what it is. You know, but when it's your show to run, then this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to do it this way, and then let the chips fall where they may.
Sure.
It is what it is.
Sure. Yeah. I heard you talk a lot about previously, like, kids wanting to be in the building. Can you just talk about, like, how it feels when kids want to be there? Because I think I've been in schools
where
kids just they just didn't want to be there. No, they want out. and some of the teachers do too, you know, and that is just a miserable environment. So could you just talk about, like, what happens when kids want to be there? We
have to be authentic as educators. That question makes me smile because when I first walked in, I think the thing I made a video for the community, right? And the reason why I did that is because I want them to know this is who's coming into your building, right? And then as soon as I was able to talk to staff, you know, I said, I want to work in a place where I want to enjoy myself. Like, I want to enjoy coming to work. The reason why that's important is because if I don't want to come to work, if I don't enjoy what it is that I'm doing, it's going to resonate. Like, people will feel that. I'll say something off the mark, and they'll be like, "Why did he say that?" It'll be, you know, a kid could pick up, you know. So to me, it has to be authentic. So what does it feel like? It feels good that they want to be there because I know that I'm striking the right tone. Teachers are striking the right tone, and it's well, you know, if it's one person that is a ripple and gets it going, okay, I'll do that, you know, but now it has to keep going because I can't be the only one that's keeping it going.
Right.
So I know it's not just me, it's all the other staff members that jumped on board and made their own ripples as well, doing the same thing, connecting with students and having fun. I want students to want to be there because it's their school. And in the end, you know, we're helping them to create memories that they're going to remember that are going to last. Right? So why not let it be a positive, fun-filled, educational experience? You know, what we do is hard enough to begin with. So stop making it harder. Stop making it harder. Get out of the way, listen to your students, find ways to connect and make programs that's going to help support them. You know, give them what they want. You know, find a way to make it fun.
Absolutely.
And then you'll see, they want to come to school. They want to come to school. Why? Because people are listening, and we're going to find ways to to help connect and help them have fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's important. It feels good that they want to be there. It feels good that staff wants to be there. And I can say, I know for me, I want to be there.
That's
so
awesome.
That's where my head is.
Yeah, Doug, you're the kind of educator that, every student deserves to have.
Thank you.
Every teacher deserves to have a
Absolutely.
leader that wants to be there, that has the kind of joy that you exude when you talk about your students, you talk about your school. And I hope that what you feel today, you still feel next year and the year after that and the year after that.
Great.
And I also want to just thank you for just coming in here. I know you worked a full day.
Yeah, this is
already.
Halloween. I had my dashiki on today, and they thought I was a hippie. I'm like, no.
Well, you'll teach them. You'll teach them.
That's
You
right.
got
Right on.
time.
Power
You
to
got
the
time.
people.
It's still the early part of the year.
Girl's a Black Panther next year.
There you go.
Okay, all right.
But we really do appreciate your
Oh, no
your
problem.
stopping in and hanging out with us and just kind of sharing your experience. It really means a lot, and it is very much a part of just the what message we're trying to convey. Which in this series is around justice, and we think that when students have a voice and students can advocate and they're empowered, that's justice.
That's justice. Right.
That's justice. And I know there are other forms of justice, but that's a big one.
And it's an important one.
It is.
Yes,
It is.
yeah.
So thank you so much for coming.
You guys are welcome.
Again,
Thank you.
I am Dr. Tonya Breland.
And I'm Erika League, and thank you so much for joining us.